if we sort of always keep to our daily routines, that we're not going to be like inspired all the time, and we need like external stimulation. We need to do different things that are outside of our craft. So recently I went on a 2-week trip to 2 cities, Taipei in Taiwan and Fukuoka in Japan. And I went there mainly to visit 2 of my favorite people. One of them is my closest friend, who I have known for the past 10 years. Oh, actually over 10 years, but I haven't seen her in over 10 years. So I met her when I was studying abroad in University of Illinois. And I was there in University of Illinois studying abroad just for like an exchange program for 3-4 months. And during that time I met her, and she was studying in National Taiwan University, and they also did the same exchange program. And I met her and a couple of other Taiwanese girls and Brazilians and Americans and everybody from all corners of the world, and it was incredible. And I really formed a nice friendship with her. And over the past years, we've sort of continued our friendship through actually exchanging letters and sending mailboxes from each other's country. So she would send me a lot of like snacks from Taiwan to the UK, and I would send her some snacks and some goodies from the UK to Taiwan. And we would do this for at least like once a year, sometimes twice a year. It's been a really interesting journey for me of keeping up a friendship in this way. It's almost very analog at this time and age, you know, like exchanging letters like we're pen pals and sharing our journeys in this way. It's been really, really special. So I count her as like one of my closest friends. She's been there for me for many, many years, and I thought that, you know, this was like the perfect time to visit her. And I thought I would combine this trip, because it's in the same corner of the world, to go to Fukuoka in Japan, because my cousin, who I see as like a younger brother to me, has been working in Japan for the past 4 years, and he's basically like working there away from his home country and away from his family, like by himself. And when I wanted to make like a long distance trip and I was thinking about where to go, like I just kept feeling like these 2 people were the people that I wanted to see, more so than even, I guess, like the country itself. So I decided to make that journey. It was very thrilling. I got so inspired, and there's just like so many things that I want to share about this journey, but I'm not going to share everything in this video, because that is going to be for our upcoming Teesside Thursday episodes, where I'll actually, you know, dive deeper into my experiences in terms of culture and food and art and design, and my own like thoughts and experiences about these trips. I feel like there's just so many things that I want to share and download to you and share my experience with you, that I don't think it's even going to be like in one video. I am going to do like a deep dive into my experience in Taipei. I'm going to do a deep dive into my experience in Fukuoka, and then I'm going to make another Teesside Thursday episode video about what I learned from these 2 journeys, because as an artist, and especially as someone who enjoys traveling, I love stepping outside of my comfort zone to experience like a completely different culture, completely different way of living. Because in my day-to-day life, I'm very organized, I'm very methodical. Flippin' hedge cutting right now going on. Namaste. So, the more I make art, the more I realize that if we sort of always keep to our daily routines, that we're not going to be like inspired all the time. And we need like external stimulation. We need to do different things that are outside of our craft. Taipei and Fukuoka, both Taiwan and Japan as countries, are countries I've never been to, with religions that are different, cultures that are different, foods that are different, and just having that opportunity to experience all these things have made me realize that the world is so big, and we're here like, you know, like stuck in our tiny worlds, and when we take the sort of first step to go outside of our comfort zone and to be willing to experience someone else's culture and ways of doing things, I think opens up a lot of freedom. So I have a bunch of things that I bought from the two countries that I wanted to share with you as like a little artsy haul that I am going to be using as part of my art studio practice, but also as part of, you know, being on this channel. And they are split into a little bit of stationery, a little bit of art practice sort of items, and some tea selection. So as you can see, actually I haven't bought a lot of stuff. I at this stage don't mind, you know, buying things that are of a better quality, that will last, and that I want to invest into my art studio practice or my art studio business, because I do feel like everything that I'm investing in now, whether it's my art program or little things like this, or my materials, is going to benefit me in the long run. But they're not all serious, to be honest. Like, they're quite fun stuff, and I want to start off with probably the most funnest objects that I bought, which is the stationery category. So in Fukuoka, it was raining for 3 whole days and we didn't have that many plans. We ended up pretty much going through so many different kinds of shops, and it was pretty crazy because coming from even, you know, the UK, but also having even explored like London, which is meant to be, you know, like the biggest city of England, I think that shopping in Asia is on a whole other level. So because it was raining, we actually never even had to like touch the ground and feel the rain, because as it turns out, there were these like huge networks of underground shops and underground restaurants, and all of these places also connected themselves. So one shopping mall was connected to another shopping mall, and it was also connected to a metro station. So I was so happy actually that my friend was with me, because I would have easily gotten lost, and something that would probably have taken her like 5 minutes to figure out would have taken me like half an hour to figure out. So it really helped to have her navigating, and it also really helped to have someone who also lives in the country. So my friend, even though she's from Taipei, she actually has lived in Japan for the past 7 years. So by now she has a good idea of the kind of shops that she likes going into to browse. And there are like a few stationery, kind of homeware, kind of little knick-knack shops that she really wanted to show me. So I ended up going to them. I wanted to start off by showing you like these little stickers. So we ended up in this like stationery shop, I believe it was called Loft, and it had all kinds of different things, including stationery. And they had like a bunch of stickers that were so incredibly designed by various illustrators from both the region of Fukuoka, but also around the area, like around Japan. And I bought specifically like the limited edition stickers that were designed by a local, I believe, like illustrator from the Fukuoka region. So I got this little cat sticker. I love cats, if you don't know already. And I also got this, I think this is like a train ticket, like a metro ticket that says Fukuoka. So I thought it was really nice because we ended up taking the metro a lot. And there were certain moments when we actually had to use like a physical old school ticket machine when we're going to like one of the areas for sightseeing. And it reminded me of that moment. And because it says Fukuoka, I thought it would be really cool to get this. I just really love this like girl. She's holding like this like ornament, but it reminds me of like water. It reminds me of the moon, and I love the moon. So because it reminded me of those two things, and I love the feminine image, like I love painting and drawing women. So I got these, and I thought that these 3 stickers would actually be really good to put into some of the notebooks that I ended up getting. So these were the stickers and these were the notebooks. My friend introduced me to this brand called MD Product, and it's basically like a selection of notebooks that are made with like super amazing material, and they can be used to draw like little illustrations and make like illustrative journal entries, you know, full of cute little illustrations and text and all that kind of stuff. I actually don't know what I'm going to use these notebooks for yet, but I really like the size of them. I think they're really, really cool to just like jot down notes, and that's what I've actually started to do already. So I think better when I write things down. So I've actually started to use this notebook to jot down some of the video ideas that I have as like a, you know, little idea dump notebook. And I think it's the perfect size to carry around with me. So similar to the same kind of paper, I got a bigger version, but this one is a bigger version of the smaller notebooks. The paper is so soft, and with this one, I definitely don't know what to do with this, but I bought it because, to be honest, like, you can never have too many notebooks to just jot things down, to doodle things. And one of the biggest questions that I hold this year is to go deeper into my art practice and to start really exploring the themes and the feelings and what I'm sort of journeying with, you know, in life, like the questions that I have, the struggles and emotions that I feel, to explore them as intimately as I can, as bravely as I can, because I think it's a really scary process to sort of ask these bigger questions and to really like dive into my own psychology and my own fears and my own perspective. But I want to get more intimate with basically myself to start to identify what I can create as my first painting series. So with that in mind, I decided to get these notebooks because I don't know how my first painting series is going to evolve, and I'm certainly going to bring you along this journey too. But I think that if there was ever a need to jot things down or explore stuff, I'm hoping to use these notebooks. So there was a moment in my life about 2-3 years ago where for every single night I was writing a poem. And this would have been perfect to actually write down poems in a really aesthetic way. But who knows, there might be more poems, there might be more writings that come out from when I do create my painting collection. So yeah, I'm just sort of thinking ahead a little bit, you know. This is not what I bought. This is just a part of my, again, blank journal pack. I actually got this from my husband. So before I traveled, I really wanted to do some journaling. I actually borrowed 3 of these little journal books from him, and I ended up using 2 of them. So this is the spare one, which I might give it back to him. But as you can see, like, I tend to keep, you know, smaller type of journals because the more portable they are, the better. And the thing for me is when it gets too big, then I feel like it's so precious that I wouldn't know what to do with it, and I would just be too precious about it. So I'm hoping that at some point I will break into these journals, but we'll find out. Where should we move on to? Let's move on to another art studio practice related item. Okay, they're like the next 2 things that I'm gonna show you actually involve, I would say, like really nice stories. So let me show you this one first. This is the one I'm super duper excited by. So it did come in this packaging. And let me tell you a little bit of a story of how I came to buy this item that I will show you in a few minutes. So my friend took me to this area in the outskirts of the Taipei city, which is called Zhefeng. So I am probably not pronouncing it correctly, but in my attempt to pronounce it, I believe it's called Zhefeng. And we basically took like a bus that I think it took like maybe half an hour, 45 minutes outside of the city. And all of a sudden, like, we got to this area that was so beautiful. It was by the sea and it had like this coastal feel to it. It's basically like this mountainside town that got really, really popular a few years back. So this town was crazy full of tourists. It was known to have like this Studio Ghibli feeling because at night the town had like several lanterns that would light up. So tourists especially went to this town to experience these lanterns like being lit up and walking through this like these staircases with these lanterns and, you know, looking out to the sea. Like it was, you know, if you took out all of the tourists, it was really like a Studio Ghibli kind of like setting. And we went to it because my friend wanted me to experience, you know, this area outside of the Taipei city. One of the sort of biggest, I would say, most obvious part of this town was these little narrow alleyways that had like full of shops. These shops had local teas, local food and cuisines, and also local crafts. And because this town has become so touristic in the last few years, of course, like these stores are there to sell to tourists like me. But what was really beautiful about it though was that, you know, all of these stores were connected to the region of some kind, like teas from the local region, crafts from the local region. So all of a sudden, like we were walking down this alleyway as we arrived, and all of a sudden, like what caught my attention was this guy like with this like huge kind of like scroll paper, using this brush to draw like a calligraphy. And he was just using this brush and this water to demonstrate the flow of the brushes for calligraphy. And the way he was making that calligraphy really touched me. And I was just drawn to him artistically expressing himself. And I was also drawn to the shop because the shop had like so many different types of brushes, like huge brushes, massive brushes. And that was pretty wild to experience because I've never been to like a traditionally crafted, handmade brush shop. And what was so amazing to me was the fact that it's a family-run business. His mom is an artist, his dad is a calligrapher, and he basically runs the shop for them in Jiufen. And it was just a very small shop, but they had hundreds and hundreds of brushes from various sizes. And we approached the shop because obviously like we're so curious at this point, and he started to talk to us, and we found out a little bit more about him. And then we also found out that, you know, they make these brushes by hand. And so I started to talk about the fact that I do acrylic and oil painting. So what out of these brushes, like what would be the best brushes for acrylic and oils? And because I saw him do calligraphy, I actually thought that these brushes were initially meant to be for watercolor only. But as it turns out, he had brushes that could be used for acrylic, watercolor, and also they could be used for oils as well. He said that with oils, these brushes would be only 75% effective, but the brushes that I got were mainly for high effectiveness for acrylic painting. So I will show you what I got. It's so beautiful. So I don't want to take them out of the packaging yet, but I will paint with these at some point, even in my next painting session. So you'll probably see me experiment with these brushes, which means you'll have to subscribe to this channel to watch my next art vlog and see me use these brushes. So this is a massive one, probably the biggest one that I got out of the pack. And it's big, so you could, you know, make these sort of sweeping curves and sort of work on like a bigger canvas. And I got this because I have in mind that I will be painting on bigger canvases. So yeah, this is a big brush. And this is, I hope I can show you. Yeah, perfect. So look at this. These are brushes in varying sizes, and he had like different packs. So some had 2, some had 3, and he said that this is like advanced level pack only because they had more sizes of brushes. And to be fair, I didn't need to get this many, right? But I did get it because I don't know when I'm going to be going back to Jiufen in the future. And I don't know if I'll ever come across this shop again. And it's so nice to own like a handmade brush that, you know, someone has put so much thought and care into it. So all of these together costed about £100, which, to be honest, I would say is a pretty good price for brushes, especially handmade brushes. I think if I bought them in England, they would have costed a lot more. And I don't know if they would look as nice as they do here. And they have these like little engravings of, apparently like this, there is a little engraving, and I'll zoom in with the camera and I'll show you. But these little engravings on the brush actually depict a figure of a god who is meant to bring good luck. So I love symbolism and I love things like that. So it made it even more special for me that it was engraved with a god that would bring good fortune. So yeah, the only thing that I feel a little bit, I would say, bad about is the fact that this is made out of animal hair. So I did ask him a question. I said, so these are actually made out of wolf hair, and this I believe is made out of like badger hair. And I was very concerned because I didn't know what they did to get the hair. But he answered my question by showing me a lock of his hair that his parents made into a brush. So apparently in Taiwanese culture, it's a very traditional thing for parents to take like a lock of their child's hair and make it into a brush and almost, have it in like a little framed, this is obviously paper, but his was like nicely framed, nicely decorated, and it had like the family seal stamped onto the actual brush itself. So it's kind of like a memorabilia, I guess, like a traditional family memorabilia that gets passed down into generation by generation. So he was showing me his hair to demonstrate that no animals were killed or harmed in the process to do it. And I was swept up in the moment and I really wanted to get these brushes because I knew that they were such a high quality that I would be able to create that and that the paint would flow really well with them. But at the same time, I wish I had asked him more questions about how exactly did they get their hair. For example, did they, like how in animal conservation practices, if they wanted to tag an animal for research or for monitoring like endangered species, how they normally have like, what do you call it, like anesthesia, to calm the animal down and put it to sort of sleep for a little bit so that they can put the tag in them and then they let them back out into the wild. I'm hoping that it was done by one of these practices. I'm vegan and I am a Buddhist, so that's why I really also feel a little bit guilty about it. And that's why I also wish that I asked more questions. So there are like nuances around this. So for example, when I was eating meat before I turned vegan, we never ate meat that was specifically killed for us, because one of the precepts in Buddhism is not to eat an animal that has been specifically killed for you. Like for example, in the West, like how we have like Christmas or Thanksgiving where normally like families might pre-order a turkey or pre-order chicken or something like that, like an animal to specifically be killed for it to be used specifically for the celebration event, for the festivities, for the family meal. Like we wouldn't do that, but we would basically buy like chicken or turkey from a supermarket instead, which has already been killed. So I know this is a bit gruesome, but I'm just sort of explaining it to you in a little bit more detail so you can understand where I'm coming from. So sort of in relation to that, the way I am trying to think about these brushes is also the fact that they have already been made. I didn't ask them to specifically, either like capture a wolf or capture a badger to make these brushes specifically for me. These have already been made. So I am basically like in my daily prayers, I am going to be sending good wishes and good merits to these animals, given their hair for us to be able to use as brushes. And I only thought of these questions after the fact because I was so wrapped up in this moment. And I think if I had gotten to know more detail about it, I maybe wouldn't have bought these brushes. But the deed is done and I can't do anything about it. I paid for these brushes already. So the only thing that I can do is actually to send these good wishes and good merits in my prayers every day, and just to wish for their health, for their well-being, and that, they will live a happy and healthy life. So yeah, that's just a little bit of a caveat for you about these brushes. The fact that they are handmade, the fact that they are natural, does make me feel a little bit conscious of this purchase. But nevertheless, it was a family business, and I'm also glad that I supported a family business. And this other item is, I would say, just more like, what I'm trying to say is I don't know what I'm going to use this for. So it's a piece of fabric and it just has a huge amount of color swatches. Like, it's just a fabric with color swatches. So this was brought about from my friend taking me in Taipei to her favorite fabric store, and it was such an amazing experience. So my friend wanted to take me to this fabric store because she is amazing at sewing, and she's been lately into making bags. She has made for me earrings before that she sent from Taipei. She has made for me like little purses and bags before. And she said, you know, whilst I'm in Taipei, choose like a couple of fabric designs that I really like, and she will make something for me out of these fabrics. And she thought it would be more special to shop with me and pick the fabrics with me before she makes the bags. And I thought that was just a really thoughtful gesture. So we ended up spending like, I swear, 2.5 hours in this fabric shop. And it was so amazing. There were like so many different kinds of fabrics, and I'll add pictures and videos that I took of my experience in this fabric store. But I was also really inspired at some point to see like rows and rows of just amazing, vibrant, colored fabrics. Like there were hues of greens, hues of purples, hues of blues. And I wish that I could have bought all these with me, but unfortunately, I don't have any use for them. The only thing that I loved about them was, you know, how tactile they were. Like I could actually hold a piece of fabric and see this color, and I felt so inspired by this color. And that was the extent of my connection with the object. So I couldn't justify myself to buy like rolls and rolls of fabric. But when we saw this sheet of fabric with so many colors, my friend actually ended up convincing me to buy it. She said I could either put it up in my studio, I could cut it out, and when I'm painting, you know, I could like cut these swatches out and make color swatches out of it, or see what colors suit with my painting. So maybe it will actually come in useful. Who knows? I think I'll only know when I get into the painting process. But I thought, why not? It was cheap. It was a nice memory for me of our time in the fabric store. The fact that we bonded over colors and patterns, and the fact that I also got to know her craft by experiencing the fabric selection with her was a really special experience. So because of that, I got this fabric. So yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm going to use for this, but that was a little souvenir item. So last two left. I'm going to start with my next category, which is tea. So as some of you may know who have been following me for some time, I started a podcast called Teaside Thursday sometime last year. And this podcast has started to evolve into a space where I share very vulnerably, very candidly about the things that inspire me, the questions that I have, new discoveries that I'm making, what I'm going through, because I wanted my art vlogs to be a space where I express myself like creatively, where I can really go all out with my writing and sort of spoken word storytelling. But I also wanted a space where I could be like a little bit more raw And the Teesside Thursday podcasts are meant to replicate deep, long, cozy chats with a friend, because with my closest friends, I normally just get into, very long chats. And as I get older, I start to value these conversations a lot more because A, they don't happen that often, because like my friend from Taipei, like my cousin, or any of my other friends who I am closer to, the thing is we all, as we get older, like have our lives. There are so many things going on and we don't end up getting together as often. So it usually ends up being that we share these conversations over a hot drink or a meal. And I always cherish these moments. So I wanted Teesside Thursdays to feel like me and you having a cozy chat. And I'm hoping that by me sharing this space and sharing, just things that I feel a little bit more vulnerable about, or the questions that I have, that you also end up sharing your stories or end up seeing your stories reflected in my honest sharings. And I'm hoping that these episodes are meant to make you feel less alone in this world, because I don't know about you, but whenever I'm going through something, if I know that someone else has gone through similar challenges before, it just makes me realize that life is normal. My life is normal. It's nothing special about it. Life is full of ups and downs, and it makes me accept the challenges that also come my way. So with that being said, from doing these Teesside Thursday episodes, I started to appreciate teas a lot more. And whenever I travel, I am noticing that I have been keeping an eye on the different types of teas that they have in different countries. And whilst I've stopped myself from buying a lot in my previous travels, I've actually decided that I'm not going to do that anymore. So I'm actually going to continue collecting different varieties of teas whenever I travel to different countries. And it starts with this little haul. So let's see, 2 of them are from Taipei and 4 of them are from Japan. So let's start with the ones from Taipei. I got fried barley malt tea. So this I bought from an agriculture store on the campus of National Taiwan University. So National Taiwan University is the university that where my friend studied, and she showed me around her campus, and there was like a little agriculture store there because they have a department for agriculture and botanicals, and part of what they study and research also gets made into different products. So this is so special, and I have no idea what fried barley malt tea tastes like. The only thing that I could relate to that's barley related is having barley coffee. And that was actually introduced to me from an ex-colleague who was Italian. And she introduced me to barley coffee, which is, I believe, a non-caffeinated version of coffee that you can drink that they make that tastes similar to coffee. So I love it. I really love it. So when I saw this fried barley malt tea, it got me really curious. I don't know what it would taste like, and I'm curious to see if it would actually taste like the barley coffee that I normally have. So that's that one. The second one from Taipei is this little pouch. So this one was from Zhefan, the same place where I got the brushes. And this was from a tea house that we went to. And we actually used up the first package to have this little sort of traditional tea experience. This is the local oolong tea, and it tastes absolutely amazing. It's so fresh, so earthy, and so clean. Like, I've never tasted oolong tea in this way before. Like I've tasted, I think, oolong tea in restaurants, but it's not as fresh and it's nothing like this. So I'm hoping to do it justice by brewing it properly when I do have this tea. But I got an extra package from the tea experience, so I'm really happy that I got this. So the next product is none other than matcha. So did you know that matcha, like the really good quality kind of matcha, is supposed to be refrigerated? Because I didn't know that before. So I got two different types of matcha for myself and also for my sister and her husband, because they also drink matcha. And matcha comes in so many different types of varieties and so many different kinds of quality. And I couldn't justify myself to buy the most expensive one. So I got like this mid-quality size of matcha that actually is kept refrigerated. So after this, I'm going to have to refrigerate it. But this is a matcha from Midori region. So it's not from the region that I visited in, but it's meant to be like a good quality matcha, and I paid a little bit more extra for this matcha. So I'm really excited to taste this and to actually see if it, like how different matcha tastes from Japan in comparison to the ones in the UK. I think it will be better. I've already actually started to drink from this package. So this is a slightly cheaper version of matcha that I bought from, I think, just a supermarket. And this is actually from Yame in Fukuoka. So Yame is another region in Fukuoka. I wanted to get one that I didn't have to be so precious about, because I feel like this should be used for like special occasions, like a Teaside Thursday episode. But this one I can just use like on any day and any breakfast of the week. So I have actually been quite precious about it as well. I haven't been using as much as I need to, so I haven't really tasted the full flavor of it. So next time I make this, I'm gonna put like a proper teaspoon amount in, instead of being really precious with it and, you know, only putting a little bit on. But I got this matcha and I got this one, and I'm so happy to finally be able to buy matcha from Japan and get to see what it will be like. Another different kind of tea is hojicha. So I had a couple of hojicha drinks in Japan and they were absolutely amazing. I have never made hojicha tea by myself before. And hojicha is basically roasted green tea. So they actually come in leaf version, but also in powdered version. So I got myself this powdered version that I really wanted to make with milk and see what it's like. So I don't know how to make hojicha tea. So buying this will teach me how to make hojicha tea. But yeah, the fact that I've never tried to make it by myself, the fact that I've never had it before from Japan in my home, means I definitely had to sort of bring it back. I couldn't find that many powdered hojicha teas. So I'm really happy to find this one. I didn't get the leaf version because I feel like I wanted to get sort of like the same consistency that I believe this one will give me. But instead of the matcha being green, hojicha should be like a brown foamy drink. So we'll see. We'll find out in a future Teaside Thursday episode. So last but not least is this super fancy green tea. And it's in a leaf form. And this is the seasonal sencha tea. So it's seasonal to this season, meaning the spring season. So it's a limited edition green tea. So green tea, I believe in Japan they call sencha. And let me tell you, like, I saw so many different varieties of sencha. I didn't know that green tea exists in so many different flavors. Some we tried were citrusy, some were very earthy, some were darker, some were mixed with like rice powder, and it was very like smoky. Like it just opened up my flavor profile so much. And I decided to get this one because again, it's a bit more special. It looks super nice, and this was like a proper traditional tea shop where you can get the leaves by weight. So we'll see what this tastes like also in a future Teaside Thursday episode. But take a look at how pretty this is. She's a beauty. To be honest, everything in Taipei and Fukuoka that I saw was beautifully packaged and beautifully well considered. So, last but not least, we get into our last category, which you may not expect. These may look like clothes. Yes, they are in the clothing category, but they are actually aprons. So, I have shared in my previous vlogs that I end up getting a lot of paint on my clothes whenever I paint. And the thing about me is I don't really have like a separate clothes for painting. And I'm usually very spontaneous and also sometimes reckless, I would say, because my clothing sometimes changes based on my mood. So, and also because the weather in the UK can be quite inconsistent. Sometimes I feel like painting in my sweats. Sometimes I feel like painting in my jeans. Sometimes I feel like painting in a nice dress when I'm finishing off a painting. So when I saw these aprons, I realized now is the time. Like now is the time to invest in something that will, well, for two purposes. One purpose is practical reasons. I think having these aprons will actually protect my clothes. The second reason is for aesthetics. So the thing about me also is I don't just want to get any apron. Like I've bought an apron from like a local craft store called Hobbycraft, and as it turns out, like it's so big. Like I don't know how they make, like who they make these aprons for, but it's not very aesthetic. It's not very well designed or considered. And in Japan, even the most sort of cheapest items of clothing or functional items are just designed so aesthetically. Plus, because it's from Asia, I feel like it's built to my size. I'm not super tall. I'm on the shorter side, and I have, even though I'm not super petite, I have a little bit more of a petite frame, maybe. But what I'm trying to say is at least it's fitting for my figure. The purpose of these aprons is not to be precious with it. These are to be washed, to be used, to have paint on, and to be messy. So they actually come in 4 different designs, and I got them in 4 different colors. Why? Because I'm like my mother. So my mom, when she has like a piece of clothing that she likes, she buys the same piece of clothing in every color that she likes. So I think I get it a little bit more from her. And I think my friend was a bit shocked for me to say, I'll have all 3. So this is the thing with me, like I don't shop a lot. Like I don't shop every week, I don't shop every month. But when I do shop, I feel like my purchases either fall on the high quality, expensive side or a lot of the same variety. Like you can see in the different types of teas that I got, or the notebooks, or these aprons. So this one is so nice. This is such a pretty apron. Like I love the color, first of all. I've been into neutrals lately, especially when it comes to clothing items. I feel like I'm drawn to some timeless kind of styles right now. And this one has like these buttons that you can actually, hook on to create different sizes. But the really clever thing is it can also be used, I'll show you, but it can also be used as like a traditional apron, a skirt, or almost like a one shoulder apron, which I thought was so cool because I definitely have various personalities when it comes to clothing choices. So I actually, like the fact that I can express myself in these ways. For you ladies and gents who love some clothing chat, you are in for a treat with this one right here. So this is so nice too. Oh my god, looking at this makes me feel, yeah, like I said, so excited to paint again. This is like a little flowy dress, and it's got pockets like in the side. Like I can put my hands in, I can put like brushes in, mid painting. I don't know. I'm imagining all different kinds of scenarios where I will be looking stylish in my apron and painting these beautiful paintings. So yeah, hold me accountable to that, okay? Hold me accountable to wearing these aprons and painting beautiful paintings. But again, this is like a different style. So with my varying personality in clothing, I really appreciate that it's not only a different color, but it's a different style. And this one is, this one is the same style as the black one, but it's just in a different color. So look at this. Whoa. And I love the back. Like it's like an open back kind of scenario. And I think this will be great for summer when it gets really, really hot. I can like open the patio doors, let the sun in, let the heat in, and, feel a little bit more lighter. And I'm hoping for some warmer days so that I can wear these aprons. And last but not least, I have this one. So this one I picked up in a different store. This store was amazing. Oh my gosh. It's called Muji. But when my friend talked to me about this shop, she called it Mujiushi, something like that. I'm really sorry if I'm pronouncing it differently. She's probably going to be laughing at me if she's ever watching this video. But Mujiushi, Muji, basically it says Muji, so www.muji.com, M-U-J-I, Muji.com. So I will show you a little image of the tag as well after. But this is, I don't even know, I just actually bought it based on the tag, which is showing that it's a longer, thicker piece of apron. And they had it in their kitchen section, where they had like all different kinds of aprons. And I was drawn to this one because it was thicker, like this, bigger, and look at this detail. Look at these buttons. Like look at this button, a singular button, just placed in the middle with this, like a little sort of like back drop. And also it has big pockets in the front. Again, I imagine that I will be putting my paintbrushes in as I'm painting my beautiful paintings. So yeah, I'm so excited. This I thought would be great for like cooler days. Now that we're coming into spring, when the weather is a little bit cooler, like today, and if I'm painting, I could wear something like this on top. And I don't have to be so precious about it. Again, even though they look super stylish, I told myself I'm not going to be super precious about it because it's an apron. It's meant to be used for practical purposes. Like, look at this. Like, who designs aprons like this? Who designs aprons in a way where there's so much thought and consideration and care put into such functional items? And that to me symbolizes the Japanese people, because they just have this way of carrying out a craft, whether it's clothing or tea or any kind of, traditional art practices like making paper, like textiles, like they just put so much care and thought and attention into little details, and I really appreciate that. So I do not regret purchasing 4 aprons. And I don't regret purchasing like 6 different notebooks and 7 different types of teas, because these are the sorts of souvenirs that I feel like I can only get when I'm in the country. And it's only on this trip that I realized how beautiful it is to be able to collect useful and functional and personal items for myself that will also like connect me to the memory of a place. So this concludes our little haul, a little artsy, little craftsy haul from my trip to Taipei in Japan. Look out for future episodes, especially the Teaside Thursday episodes, where I'll be talking more about this journey with you, this trip with you, what inspired me and what I learned. And I hope that me sharing little sort of souvenirs and little stories about my trip, I hope that they also inspire you to step outside of your comfort zone, step outside of what feels familiar to you, so that you can also explore what's beyond your hometown, beyond your country, and beyond the spaces that you occupy. I will see you in a future vlog and a future Teaside Thursday episodes. I know that this was a little bit different kind of video from what I normally make, but I hope that you enjoyed it nonetheless. Bye.
I'm hushing the dog on the chain. I'm lining up stones on the edge of the bank. Rally the troops for another refrain. I sing this softly to myself. I sing this softly